improve mitochondria function for energy production. So here's the really quick basics of this. So first of all, your mitochondria is basically what actually converts nutrients from the cells of your body into energy. And this is basically what allows your body to actually function and do things like grow, to improve your metabolism, and basically cellular reproduction, which basically means healing or growing in general. So this is basically the importance of it. And the reason why I got involved in learning more about how to support my mitochondria is basically because I was experiencing debilitating fatigue, where even doing something as simple as dishes was too much for me. I didn't have the energy for that. Brain fog, the energy that the mitochondria produces is basically what the body uses to allow your mind to actually think. And so I was experiencing brain fog where I couldn't even run my business. I would sit down to write an email and forget who I was writing to. It was that kind of a brain fog. I was having poor sleep and basically just have no energy. And, that energy is important for a lot of these functions. And also was affecting, things like anxiety, which I'm going to be talking about also here. So I'm basically going to be going through what I'm learning from the mitochondria summit, and this is a transcript that you can actually download. I have a link where you can download these transcripts in the description of this video, below this video. And so I'm just going to scan through a couple of the things that really stood out for me. And anyone who has gone through my hormone bootcamp program, you probably are going to be familiar with some of these things that I'm going to be covering, which is pretty cool when you get another perspective on the things that I talk about and basically teach. But one of the things that you're going to hear in these summits, these expert talks, is basically how do you improve mitochondria function. And so here's this is basically part of, I believe it's Bridget who's talking in this one, but basically she's talking about what she does to improve mitochondria function. So one of the things is the green juices. And I believe that one of the reasons why greens are really good for it is because they're hydrating. So again, if you're going through the hormone bootcamp, my hormone bootcamp program, that the first thing that I talk about is hydrating, alkalizing. Also talk about how I alkalize my body, and then I think the key thing here is bringing oxygen into the cells. So those are kind of like the key ones here, but that's not all. Let me scroll up here. So a second one that you may be familiar with is fish oil. Now, if you've gone through my hormone bootcamp program, I talk about how, a lot of the times why people have, issues with hormone production is because of gut health. Having autoimmune conditions, you have a poor time digesting food. And so one of the things that I differ here is that I don't do fish oil. I do fermented cod liver oil, and the reason for it is because fermented basically means that it's already been digested, whereas if you take just regular fish oil, but if you have autoimmune issues, if you have gut issues, then you're probably not going to be able to digest this oil. But if you take it fermented, it's already digested, so you'll actually get a better result. And that's basically what I found, and that's why people that are going through the program, my program, are getting a lot of good results. The third one here is basically magnesium, which again is basically the first thing that I talk about the first week on a hormone bootcamp. And personally, I use a ionic magnesium in a liquid form. I do not do powder. I just believe that this liquid ionic magnesium is just so much better. But that's basically a huge component, which kind of goes back to hydration, which was somewhere over here, wherever. Anyways, so those are like two of the, three of the important ones. And then the one that I believe has been a game changer for me is Co-enzyme Q10. And I have a link in the description of this video for the Co-enzyme Q10 that I use. But basically, this is the one that, here's another person talking about how, when she found that she was really impressed and was almost at that point where it's like, I can't try any more supplements, but I still take it every day. I really like it. And that's how I feel about Co-enzyme Q10. As I'm making this video, if you guys were watching my live video, earlier today, I talked about how I'm running basically on 5 hours of sleep. And the reason why I'm still up and going, even though it's kind of like, it's 8 p.m., I still have a lot of energy, and that's because I took my Co-enzyme Q10 earlier. And, it's, like I said, it's possibly one of the best things that I've done for, to get more energy. And, it basically is because now I understand that it's what activates the mitochondria function. It's really what I believe turns it on, which I'm going to talk about a little bit more about, what that, how that happens and other ways to actually improve mitochondrial function. And then last one that I want to point out is basically the chlorophyll, which goes back to the green juices. And so for those of you who follow my live videos, you can pretty much start to see why when I go into, energy, when I focus on improving my energy, one of the things that I really focus on is basically drinking green juices, which, depending on when you're watching this video, right now I'm kind of in that phase, and so you're going to see me switch and focus a lot more on green juices. And the reason for it is because chlorophyll, which so I usually get from either chlorella on my green smoothies that I tend to share, or when I drink my green juice. Really what I'm looking for out of this is basically to get oxygen into the cells, which is one of the things that improves mitochondria function. So these are basically the top supplements and or foods that I know of that will improve mitochondria function. And so you can actually, if you've been through my hormone bootcamp, you can see that people that go just through the first 3 weeks, week 1, I talk about hydration. Week 2, I talk about vitamin D, which is basically the fermented cod liver oil. And then week 3, I talk about, basically getting the nutrients that you need. And one of those nutrients happens to be coenzyme Q10. And that's why, if you went through the program, you started to see some of the testimonials, some of the comments that I got. People were just buzzing with energy. People that, were usually fatigued, all the time, when they do all of these 3 things combined. And then week 4, when I introduced the green juice, now you guys can kind of see how all of this ties together and how it is all working just for this, part alone. Now, the next part here that I want to talk about is actually doesn't have to do much with supplements per se, but if you've been through, if you've listened to my anxiety masterclass, this is basically where this comes in. And basically, in order to understand this, and it'll make a lot more sense for those of you who've been through my anxiety masterclass and why I focus a lot on this part of, basically the there's the diet side, and then there's the mind side to this. And it really starts out by understanding that we have basically what is called the fight or flight response mode. And this will be basically the sympathetic side of our nervous system. And the way that I think of this is, anyone that has autoimmune conditions, for me, the way that I think of it is basically when you have some sort of threat, like a bug or a chemical. So in our case of autoimmune conditions, we have bad bacteria in our gut, whether it's some sort of virus, parasite, or something like that. Which to me, that's kind of like my own definition of an autoimmune condition to begin with. That tends to trigger a stressor. So one of the things that I know I struggled with was basically high levels of cortisol, which is the stress hormone. And so when you're basically exposed to this type of environment, I guess, within you, what you're essentially experiencing is being on the fight or flight response mode, which is the sympathetic side of the nervous system. And so one of the things that I talk about in my hormone bootcamp is that the importance of sleep, which is essentially how the body goes into the parasympathetic mode, which is where there is rest, digestion, and detoxification. So if you have been through my hormone, not the hormone bootcamp, but the anxiety masterclass that I share, one of the things that I talk about is how we have basically two sides or two ways of operating, and one of them is basically the ego mode, and then the other one is the self, where you actually are able to just be yourself, and it's kind of like when you quiet down your mind. And the way that I think of this is the ego mode is what causes you to go into the fight or flight response mode, the sympathetic mode, where you allow basically stress, fear, and other things like that to enter your mind. And so you're operating on this side. But when you learn to shut off the ego, then you're able to go into this side, which is the parasympathetic mode, and that actually allows you to rest, digest, and detoxify. So again, this happens when you sleep naturally, but you can actually be on this mode while you're awake. And the way that happens is, go back down here, which is, I believe it's in this page here. So let me find this real quick. I think it's on page 6. All right, so on this part right here, we're talking about there's stress from childhood and things like that. That again, some of this may not make sense if you haven't watched my anxiety masterclass. So if you head over to my website, hypothyroidismsuccessstory.com, and go through our hormone bootcamp, you can find it there, and it's in our Facebook group. But look at one of the things that they talk about here is cultivating joy, cultivating meditation time, basically things that put you on that parasympathetic mode. And actually, it's down here where this is something that I talk about a lot, which is, first thing in the morning, do a gratitude journal. I cannot stress enough how many times I've mentioned this, and very few people actually take me up on this, but I am telling you, the gratitude journal has really changed, a lot of things for me. But really what I believe that this is doing, this alongside with meditation, is really that is like, the way that I think of it is when I go to sleep, I'm on the parasympathetic mode, which is basically, if I were to do a timeline, if I go to bed at 9 and wake up at 5 a.m., that's basically me being in that rest period where my body's actually recovering, where my mitochondria function is improving. But instead of ending at 5 a.m. when I wake up, I actually extend that throughout the day. And so obviously, throughout the day, I'm going through different stress, whether it's, from driving or things at work or things that are going to my business or relationships or, finances or whatever you want to call it, a stressor. This will be like a roller coaster throughout the day. but my job is basically to, throughout the day, I try to meditate and or do things like gratitude or different things to where I'm essentially stretching this parasympathetic mode, within me. And, one of the things that helps me do that is basically food and diet. Some of these supplements that I share, here we talk about, essential oils, which I haven't really talked much about, but I will put this alongside with what I call high frequency foods. So other foods you may have heard me talk about that are similar would be Ayurvedic herbs, adaptogens. These are basically things that help the body cope and regulate stress. These are all things that are very, very important for, to improve mitochondria function. So again, these are just some of the things that I wanted to share that, that you can learn. This is just the transcript, but you can listen to these talks. And again, if you can actually download this transcript, I have the link in the description of this video below, and I'll probably be posting more videos on the topic. But I hope that this summary really, really helps you out. So even if you don't go through the program, I hope that this helps you figure out what are some ways that you can improve mitochondrial function, which ultimately is going to help you get more energy. And this is one of the things that I did to basically get rid of my debilitating fatigue, brain fog, and overall just get more energy and enjoy a better quality of life. So hope you enjoyed this. Thank you for watching, and if you found this information helpful, then please don't forget to like, comment, and share this video. I'm truly grateful and I appreciate everyone who does. So until next time, I'll talk to you later.